One subject I want to touch base on is what everybody seems to be talking about is a particular case. Everybody is talking about in reference to P. Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, aka Sean, aka Love. So one of the things everybody's talking about is he going to jail? What is poor Cassie going through? And all of these things suck. All of these things completely suck. But the one thing that's not being referenced to, maybe not yet, at least not that I have heard, is when I work with people in areas of addiction, and I look at this as a massive addiction. Like, why would someone want to do this to a person? Yes, control. Yes, you know, um, I just have to have power, because those are the 2 subjects that when I did click in to watch on YouTube, this, that, or otherwise, when I did click in, these were some of the areas in reference to people saying it was power, it's control, and all of those things are correct. But the one thing that I'm not hearing, where did this even start? Be because in my work that I do, one of the key focal points is, where did this begin? Did he, get this from his friends and say, "Oh, wow, I want that kind of power"? Did he learn this in relationships in the past? How far back does it go? Now, from my work, it starts very young. From my work, it starts, maybe with 2 or 3, whenever you could comprehend things, a family member, this, that, or otherwise. So this is the thing. Does this come up in court if things are not going the way they were wanting to go? What do you think about that? Do you think that the court case, that the attorneys will say, "Hey, let's use this just in case. Let's start putting this in the jury's mind so we can have a back door, so we can go a certain way to make a connection with the jury if we have to." But the reality is, I'd say yes. That not the jury thing, not the attorney thing, but this started somewhere. And I wonder, because it's been showing his mom walking in the court, it's been showing these individuals, these family members. Do you think in the back of their mind that she's saying, I did this? Maybe not personally, but I knew people that did this to Sean, or did she always just see him as the good boy, never did anything wrong, never did, painful things? But listen to his music. Did his music ever illustrate who he is now, who we see him? Yeah, he's an icon. He's a mogul. He's all of these things. But when you listen to his lyrics, do you hear any of these things? And then I go into Cassie on the stand. I go into Cassie on the stand and what's to come with her pregnancy, because studies have shown, and I believe in it, that when a woman is pregnant, the baby feels all of the emotion. The baby feels all of the connection. The baby feels all of the emotion. So you put that together. What's that baby feeling? And then all of these things came out in the case. All of these things came out in this case study. Okay. In reference to, I'm dating, now married to this person, or maybe going to be married, fiance. I forget what the exact title is, but he's saying what the right things. Like, you know what? She's better from it. Her boyfriend, fiance, husband, whatever he is, she's stronger from it. She's better. She's empowered. But I wonder what the PTSD is affecting him, of her stress, of Diddy's stuff, of all of these things. You're human. You have to feel something. You have to experience something. What do you think he's going through in his head? And now she's done. She's off the stand. What are those conversations like when they're alone? Do they come up? Or does he not say anything and still that's talking? Because 93% of our communication is body language, 7% is words. So You feel it. Think about it. Whenever you're having a situation with someone and things aren't going right, don't you feel that body language? You do. But let's go back to the PTSD. Let's go back to the formula of how he got control, because a lot of people are now looking at this case on that jury, I would imagine, and they're saying, well, look at this. She's not so innocent. She's saying, I love you. She's feeling all these things. How could we convict this person? She sounds guilty. Does she sound guilty to you? See, knowing what I know in the work that I do, there is a formula for control. There is a formula for control. And some of the areas of control came into the focal point of how do you control this person? Well, you start by getting their guard down. You get them to relax. You show them love. You show them a world that they never seen before. Then you give them love from every category: connection, intimacy. From this point, now you built a slow foundation. Then slowly you start utilizing the abuse under the radar. Hey, you want to try this? I'm not really into it. All right, that's just, it's not for everybody. That's something I like. What goes through that person's mind? Well, I don't want to really lose what I have it. Maybe it's not that bad. I'd be willing to try it once. Really? And so then they try it. And even in that mind, maybe it wasn't what they wanted, but we tend to tell ourselves that, you know what? It wasn't that bad. I see this in relationships all the time. I see people that will come to me, how do I change my significant other? How can I have a better relationship with this person? How do I do it? And then when I tell them, well, the only way to change somebody is to change yourself. That is it. You got to change you for yourself. That benefits you. But instead, they change themselves all right, but to benefit that person because they're afraid to lose what they have. And that's the truth. They're afraid to lose what they have. So, you know what? I'm going to stick with this because even though it's not something I want, maybe in time we'll get to know each other and I'll know I'll be locked in and I can help that person make shifts, but it never really works that way. It never really works that way. So the first part of the formula after connecting comes the first beginnings of control. And I literally had a person one time that came to me out of California. I'm based in Florida, and we're doing our online work like this. And she said, recently, my mother-in-law moved in, and it's been horror. It's been a horror show. It's been hell. And I said, well, how recent is recent? She goes, it's been a year. So that's a long time. I said, okay. So what's the situation? I don't really want her there. We don't get along. She doesn't like me, and I don't show it, but I don't like her. But she feels it. She feels it. So I said, well, what is it you want? I want my husband to find a place for her to live. I said, right, you want a place for her to live. Or I want my husband to speak up for me because he's always defending her. He's always connecting with her. He's never seeing anything from my point of view. And he said, well, I want you to think about that for a moment. She's been living with you for quite some time. Even though you believe it's a short time, that's still long enough for people to get used to their surroundings. She's used to her surroundings, and your husband's used to mom being there, and both of them used to this way of surroundings. What would happen if you now come up to your husband and say, "Hey, I need you to do A, B, and C because it's just not working out for me?" Well, he's going to wonder, why are you saying something now? Why are you reacting now? Why didn't you say something when things were in the beginning? I'm sure you've seen things early. What is it? You just don't like my mom? And that's where that built on. Why am I using that? Well, one of the factors is this, is that Cassie went through the same thing. She started with a foundation. She adapted, thinking, well, maybe this will be it. And then Diddy, Love, Sean, Puffy slowly began to stretch it a little more. How much more can I take? And he would find his boundaries, and then he would use things to tie in to slowly guilt her to trying a little more until finally it got out of control mentally for her. What will I lose? What are the consequences if I stop this altogether? And when she tried, it got violent. When she tried, they were under some form of influence, some sort of substance. When he kept stretching it and stretching it and stretching it, which if you notice the pattern, it just continued to do that. When you notice the pattern, it just continued to do that. So therefore, you think about that. I can't get out. And when she finally did, when I finally, because your brain can only take so much, eventually there will be a part, whether it's a day, a week, a month, or years, that will say, that's it. I'm done. This is not love. This is not what I anticipated. This is not what I want. And it confused him to a degree because I had control, I had power. So all of a sudden, you could blame it, like she said, if you've been following the court case, he wasn't himself. He wasn't Sean. He was Puffy. He wasn't Love. He was Diddy. And so he beat the hell out of me. He beat the hell out of me. And people said, but then you wrote all these things later. You wrote all these texts saying, we're good. Oh, that thing. Yeah, let's never talk about it again. When you have that kind of control and that person is constantly going in their thoughts and their mind that I don't want to lose this. I don't want to, because here's the key thing. You want to get through and get done with someone. There's a reason why we made not we personally, but why world, states, governments, whatever you want to name it, the judicial system named when you finish with someone, you divorce them because we know divorce means permanently done, cutting ties. I throw out your pictures, you have no contact with me, we are finished. But it wasn't strong enough for her to, at that time, to divorce herself from the situation. It just wasn't her time. She couldn't do it because she kept, instead of thinking of the bad and how you continue to stay in a divorce mental state, even if you're not, you think of the crap that they're putting you through. You continuously think of, they're making me sleep with other men. You know, they're making me do things against my standards and boundaries. I need to make a shift. You don't give yourself enough of those things. Instead, you might think one on one, look what he's doing to me. But this isn't Sean. This isn't love. I don't know who this is. So you find ways to justify to stay in that relationship. And you know what? Most of us have done this. I can tell you, I've never had the abuse of this situation, but I've been in situations where I felt because maybe I love this person more than they loved me. And I remember saying it, I remember feeling, I was like, are we getting together tonight? No, I'm going out with my friends. Okay. And then there was a time where, again, I was being conditioned, conditioned, just like this in a sense. I was getting conditioned. Are we going to go out? I'll give you Friday or Saturday. I'm in an ultimatum for my girlfriend. And she goes, well, I must be a bad girlfriend then. So if I'm that bad, then maybe you should dump me. Now, she wouldn't dump me, but she would put in my thoughts. I go, no, you're a good girlfriend. I'm justifying it. I'm not putting together all the pain that I'm having instead because I'm not ready to divorce the situation, despite it's not into my standards that I want in a relationship. It doesn't measure up to the standards that I wanted. So therefore, I conditioned myself by the conditioning process and the programming I was getting, which is exactly what she's getting, except the levels went up higher because there was more consequences, more benefits rather, than the consequences that she put in her head at that time. And she, who knows what she figured. She would even say, if you've been following the case, I want to let go completely for you. I want to give you everything and have you see me do these performances with these men because you're what I want and I love, but I'm afraid that I don't want you to think I'm enjoying it so much that I let myself go so much that I'm betraying you. because I wouldn't betray you. So I need to know if I do what you ask, Diddy, Sean, Love, Puffy, if I do what you ask, that we're still going to be okay because I don't want to lose you. And he was said to her, no, this is what I've been waiting for. So she went all out and she performed to the 100% level of what he wanted for him to have his freak off. Like I said, I was being controlled, and you don't realize it because you feel the benefits of the love outweigh the pain. We will actually say we're in the best relationship, but if there are moments of pain, you'll put yourself through pain. I've seen people stop seeing their parents because their significant other said, they don't like me, so I don't like them. So if you want to be in this relationship with me, get rid of that, or at least keep it on the fly because I don't want to see it. I've seen people do that too with their kids. It's either you and me, and you have to put your kids to the side because I am not dealing with that. Do we know anyone out there? Do you know anyone out there that's gone through that? I want you to think about that. I want you to feel about that. This case is built on PTSD. What she's experiencing now, even though it is human trafficking, imagine the PTSDs that we'll cover in reference to that. Being under the influence, using the star status, using the star status to lure people in. I'm getting the party with so and so. Believe me, I get it. I lived in Miami myself for years, hence the you. I lived in Miami for years, and I got to work in South Beach. I got to do things all through that area, and I would run into regular people like myself, and they would go, "Guess who I ran in? Oh, I wish I could do work with them. I wish I could hang with them. I wish I could party with them. Hey, guess who I partied with over at the club this week? Guess who I seen walking down A1A or in South Beach, Alton Road? Guess who I seen? Guess who was really cool? I actually got to sit with them and ask them a couple questions because we're starstruck. And when we do that, we want that feeling, we want that lifestyle, we want that connection. So sometimes we'll sacrifice our identity and become a behavior so we could fit in, so we can rub off on that, right? I want you to think about that. I want you to feel about that. I want you to connect with that because this is how manipulation begins. We want something, we feel something, but we're drawn in. We're drawn in a way of connection. And then the slow red flags start coming up. Red flag after red flag after red flag. And then the red flags become bigger flags until there's so many in the room I can't even breathe. I'm suffocating. And then it's too late because now, instead of being my identity and my standards and my values and my beliefs, I've now become a behavior like her. Think about it. That's not who she is. That's a behavior. When she said, when we wasn't freaking off and I didn't want to lose him, I didn't want to say no. So I had to make it exciting. I'll write you a text. Yeah, baby, I wish we could freak off. I wish we could do all these things because I want that for us. I want that for you. But I can't. I can't be me, but I'm going to do it against me. How many people out there are in a relationship like that now? I knew many people out even side of my coaching. I knew a lady one time, 30 years, still to this day, early 60s. Her husband's retired. I'm not going to say where, not going to say the work that he does, but she had nothing to fall back on. He was verbally abusive to the point if she made a friend on the block, she couldn't go out. Can I go see so and so? No, I want you to do this, this, that. I want you to do this, this, and that. And then eventually he'd give her a little leeway, but okay, you can go today, but you got to be back at this time. And this became, I remember I would hear the conversations where she was talking to a mutual friend, and I would just listen. I would just keep my mouth shut. And she would say, I got to get back for so and so. I told him I'd be back at this time. And she made this part of her life. She adapted to it. Nope, have to be. Have to do. I can't let him feel overwhelmed. I have to be there. Now, she was never physically beaten, but she was well trained. She was conditioned. And I knew her from 40, 20 plus years later into now her early 60s. Still doing the behavior, still conditioned. Do you know anybody like that? If you do, feel free to give them this podcast. Feel free to connect. There'll be some contacts at the end of the podcast in reference to free consultation, free one-on-one session to try it, to get you to reestablish your identity after living in a behavior for so long. I think it's about time. Do you even know? And there's the biggest question. No, I am living my identity. How do you know? How do you know that you're living in your identity? How do you know that you're not conditioned and you're really a behavior? That's what Epstein did. That's what P. Diddy did. And that's what many people out there are going through. So we're stewing the pot. And I hope that you enjoyed this podcast today in reference to stewing the pot with myself, Greg Stewart. And this podcast is sponsored by Stew Sweets. If you like a wonderful, healthy alternative to desserts, but you don't want to put on the calories, well, Stew Sweets would be that for you because they have the best high protein, super low carbs, no sugars. All sugars that are in it are natural and very low, very tasty. Stew Sweets specializes in Dubai chocolates as well as cookies, and all wonderful pro bodybuilder whey proteins are in it. I think they use the raw with sebum if you're familiar with the fitness world. If not, look it up. Sebum's protein, I believe it's called Raw, RAW, and give that a check out. But once again, thank you for listening in to the podcast here with Stewing the Pot. I'm Greg Stewart, and we're going to continue our journey together. Thanks a lot. Do me a favor when you get a chance, subscribe and like us because we do appreciate it. We're going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about. But once again, please down below, please like us there. Please also subscribe. It is very appreciated. Looking forward to your comments there. And again, if you need help, take a look also after the little commercial in reference to Stew Sweets at the end. Take a look at the helpline there because we can get you some help, and we are offering consultations for free as well as a session to help you find your identity and stop living as a behavior. Till next time, this is Greg with Stewing the Pot. See you later.